Book 2, Chapter 22 of Bradford's History of the Plymouth Settlement, 1608 to 1650. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Bradford's History of the Plymouth Settlement, 1608 to 1650, by William Bradford. Rendered into modern English by Harold Paget. Book 2, Chapter 22. I now come to the conclusion of the long and tedious business between the partners here and those in England. James Shirley in England to the Partners of New Plymouth. Loving friends, Mr. Bradford, Mr. Winslow, Mr. Prince, Captain Standish, Mr. Brewster, Mr. Alden, and Mr. Howland, give me leave to include you all in one letter concerning the final end and conclusion of this tiresome and tedious business, which I think I may truly say is uncomfortable and unprofitable for all. It has pleased God now to show us a way to cease all suits and disputes, and to conclude in peace and love as we began. I am content to make good what Mr. Atwood and you have agreed upon, and for that end have sent him an absolute and general release to you all, and if it lacks anything to make it complete, write it yourselves and it shall be done, provided that you all, either jointly or severally, seal a similar discharge to me. For that purpose I have drawn up a copy and sent it to Mr. Atwood with the one I have sealed for you. Mr. Andrews has sealed an acquittance also, and sent it to Mr. Winthrop, with such directions as he thought fit, and, as I hear, has transferred his debt, which he makes £544, to the gentlemen of the Bay. Mr. Weld, Mr. Peters, and Mr. Hibbins have taken a great deal of pains with Mr. Andrews, Mr. Beauchamp, and myself, to bring us to agree, and we have had many meetings and spent much time upon it. Mr. Andrews wished you to have 1/3 of the £1200, and the Bay 2/3; but to do that we three partners here must have agreed to do it, which would be a difficult matter now. However, Mr. Weld, Mr. Peters, Mr. Hibbins, and I have agreed, and they are giving you their bond to settle with Mr. Beauchamp and procure his general release, and thus free you from all the trouble and expense that he might put you to. Now our agreement is, that you must pay to the gentlemen of the Bay £900, they to bear all expenses which may in any way arise concerning the free and absolute clearing of you from us three, and you to have the other £300. Upon receiving my release from you I will send you your bonds for the purchase money. I would have sent them now, but first I want Mr. Beauchamp to release you as well as I, because they bind you to him as well as to me, though I know that if a man is bound to 12 men, when one releases him it is the same as if all did so my discharge is to that extent sufficient. So do not doubt but you shall have them, and your power of attorney, and anything else that is fit. Your loving and kind friend in what I may or can, James Shirley, June 14, 1642. Mr. Andrews's discharge was similar to Mr. Shirley's. He was by agreement to have £500 of the money, which he gave to those at the Bay, who brought his discharge and received the money, viz., 1/3 of the £500 paid down, and the rest in 4 equal payments, to be paid yearly, for which they gave their bonds. £44 more was demanded, in addition, but they believed they could arrange it with Mr. Andrews, so it was not included in the bond. But Mr. Beauchamp would give way in nothing, and demanded £400 of the partners here, sending a release to a friend to be delivered to them on receipt of the money. But his release was not perfect, having left out some of the partners' names, with some other defects, and besides, the other partners there gave them to understand he had not nearly so much due to him. So no end was made with him till 4 years after. End of Book 2, Chapter 22.